Okay, I'll pray and then we'll go over these questions. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for your love for us. I ask, Father, that as we learn more about the truth of your creation and as we learn more about how to reason and how to find truth, that we would seek you wholeheartedly, Father, that we would desire to know and to live. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So we're going to go over the questions you've already answered, and then we are going to walk through the questions you haven't answered yet together. So we've talked about, let's see, those first three emboldened questions for sure. Did we do 4 and 5? Okay. Okay. Okay, so what 3 things did Dr. Sire's Socratic approach reveal to the students? Yeah, Jake. Yeah. Any belief is worth trusting only if it points to the truth. It's not worth believing something that isn't true, right? What's the second thing? Yeah, many popular beliefs today are not supported by evidence. And then what's the third one? Right. If you're going to say this has to be the answer, this has to be the truth, if it's not true, you're never going to get there. If you're going to hold on to that. Why is it illogical to affirm that Western logic is different from Eastern logic? Just pause for a minute and think of the irony of a white American telling a native Indian from India what is Indian logic, right? What Indians believe. He was raised there. He knows what Indian is. So what's illogical about that? No. What's about the logic itself? He said that there. Remember what is East Western logic according to this professor? Yes, it's either or logic. Either it's this or it's this. Eastern logic is both and. It's both this and this. Okay, at the same time. And so, what is illogical to affirm that Western logic is different from Eastern logic? What makes that illogical? What made his whole argument illogical?
Either the both and logic.
Yeah. He was using Western logic to try to prove Eastern logic. The Western logic wins out because he ends up saying either you need to believe Eastern logic or nothing else. And so, obviously, the Western logic, the either or, is the superior because you have to use it to even believe in. Yeah, that's what we're saying. No, that's what he's saying is you have to use the east or you have to use the Western logic. You have to use the either or to support the both and. No, it doesn't work the other way. No.
Does he believe that?
Okay, give me a logical statement.
No, I'm just saying because it's both and. So you believe Eastern and you believe Western. Is that how it works?
No.
Wait, but I just thought but it's both and. So you believe this and something else, right?
No.
How's it going?
It's what I just said.
They're not messing around with this training.
Okay, but if you're serious about it, what your face would indicate you're not. So, and even so I want you to understand that the reason that it's the either or and not the both and is because you have to use the either or to get to the both and. You don't have to use the both and to get to the either or. It doesn't work the other way. Okay. Why should people be skeptical about David Hume's skepticism? So let's first of all let's turn in that page to where David Hume is beliefs are talked about. So Hume believed that you can only know things that are empirically verifiable. You can only know things either because they're true by definition, like 2 + 2 = 4, or or it can be experienced through sense experience. And you can do that with 2 + 2 = 4 as well, right? You can line up 2 apples and count it's 4 apples. But outside of that, outside of being empirically viable or verified, you can't know anything. So what is the problem with Hume's premise? Why should we not believe David Hume's premise? It doesn't meet its own standard. That statement itself, you can only know something is true if it's true by definition or if it's empirically verifiable, is not true by definition and is not empirically verifiable. So Hume, this is what the book says, Hume tries to prove too much because his method of discovering meaning and propositions, and true propositions included too much. The premise that unless something is true by definition or empirically provable, it is meaningless because it's self-defeating. Hume would say anything else is meaningless. Anything that's not by definition or empirically verifiable is meaningless. So that statement itself is meaningless by Hume's own definition. I'm not saying it's meaningless because I don't like David Hume or whatever. The statement is meaningless, rendered meaningless by its own definition, by its own statement. So why should we be agnostic, not believe Immanuel Kant's not agnosticism? So I took philosophy in college, my freshman year of college, second semester of my freshman year of college, or my sophomore year, before my junior year. My roommates took it junior year. Here's what I remember about philosophy in college. I remember that the teacher was very engaging, but like the rest of it made no sense. Hearing something was. These are the two things I remember from what I remember learning in philosophy. If this is a chair, and this is a chair, and this is a chair, there must be some property called chairness. And then the other thing that we spent a good deal of time discussing was, do trees have rights? In a college class. I would have much rather discussed, do human beings, even those in the womb, have rights, but that's not true. So Kant claims that no one can know the truth. Like the truth cannot be known. We can't know the real world. We only know our perception of it. So I don't know that's Lucas. I only know my perception of Lucas. I can't know that he's really Lucas. So Kant claims that no one can know the real world, only the representation they perceive. But this is self-defeating as well, because Kant is claiming to know something, which is that you can't know. anything. But he knows that you can't know anything. So he's claiming to know something. So in doing that, it is in knowing that you can't know anything, that's self-defeat. So it renders it useless. So while my roommates in were taking philosophy junior year, they got really upset at Immanuel Kant because they can't understand him. Anybody can. So they couldn't understand him. So we had on our door, we had two things on our door. Yes. Our room. What? It was Unyaya. Darb was Unyaya. Over here? We can't know the thing. We can't know what the Darb is. So we had two things on our door. We had a memorial to all the fish that died in Tammy's fish tank that year. One day I was watching a football game on TV one Saturday, and I looked down, and there was a dead fish on the floor right next to me. We didn't even realize he jumped the tank. But the funniest thing that happened with the fish tank is when she first put the fish in, and there was this. No. Well, it was close to. We went to lunch. We came back, and there was a dead fish. And we're like, she's like in there trying to get him to move around, and all of a sudden, he's like belly up. All of a sudden, he shoots across the tank, goes belly up, and dies. Like, what just happened? It was the craziest thing. So we had a memorial. We put little fish up there and put their names to the dead fish. There were a lot of dead fish. And then the second thing is they put up, and this was not me, a death list. And it was people that they wished would die. And Kant, I know, isn't that awful? I had nothing, well, Hi, Angela, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
This is true confessions by Mrs. Keiser. No, Immanuel Kant was on that list, because, even though he was already dead, because they did not like Immanuel Kant in high school. Or in college, he is hard to understand. Okay, next question. Can the Roadrunner tactic prove that God exists or that Christianity is true? Why or why not? Can it? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
No.
Because
No.
if you prove everything is wrong, then you can prove that God exists. They'll reach the truth. Because after you prove everything.
Theoretically, if you proved everything wrong with the Roadrunner tactic, which you actually can't, but let's just say you could, and you can't prove everything wrong. There's too much stuff out there. So, but in theory, I will grant your proposition.
I said no.
But you said no. Yes. No. Why?
Because the Roadrunner tactic can only prove something.
Yes. Yes. It cannot positively prove anything. It is negative in nature. It can only prove something. Okay. Did you do this next page? Did you do the reading for this next page?
I don't remember.
Did you read through 69?
Yes.
Okay. So what are, and I'm not asking for specific names of the principles, but just in general, what are the first principles of thought? This is on page 62 of the books. What are the first principles of thought? We're going to answer these as a class. Yes, Davis. Okay, those are two of them, but I want to know in general what all of them are, like a definition for all of them.
Did you say law?
Those are examples of the first principles of thought, but I want a definition for the whole lot. There we go. They are the self-evident laws of logic. They are the self-evident laws of logic. They do not need proof from other principles. We just intuitively know this to be true. So they need no proof from other principles because they are self-evident. If you know anything about our Constitution, and I hope you do know something about the Constitution of the United States, you know this, that our founding fathers said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, all people, men back in that day, are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, chiefly life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're saying we don't have to prove that this is true. People just know this is true. Why is it that people who live in closed countries, people who live in autocratic countries, yearn for freedom? Because the desire for freedom is in the heart of everyone. Nobody says, I want someone to rule harshly. We all want autonomy. And that's why our founding fathers called those unalienable rights, that the fact that all human beings are created equal, and those unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, called them self-evident. Every human heart knows it. So every human heart knows these first principles of thought. So what is the law of non-contradiction? Yes, they can both be false, theoretically, but they can't both be true. I could say today is Tuesday, Wednesday. It's both Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, they can't. Those two things cannot both be true. They are both false. They cannot be both true. They're contradictory. So if I say today is Monday, I'll pick on somebody else, and Gracie says today is Tuesday, either we're both wrong. One of us is wrong, one of us is right. All of you know that we can't both be right. Two contradictory things cannot be true at the same time and in the same sense. At the same time and in the same sense. What is the law of the excluded middle? This doesn't mean like the middle child is forgotten. That's true as well.
That's also
very true. Yeah. I was the middle child, although I found ways to get to it. Not positive ways, but I found ways to get it. So what is the law of the excluded middle? Yeah, something either is or is not. There's no middle ground. It might be. I mean, you might not know, so you'll say, we might have homework, but either you have homework or you don't. Whether you know it or not, either you have homework or you don't. So two contradictory things cannot be true. Or excuse me, I'm saying the opposite. Something is either is or is not. So either God exists or he doesn't. We might not know. You might say, well, I don't know. But the truth is, he either exists or he doesn't, whether we realize it. Okay, so define, I'll let you. Define these terms used in logic. The first one is deduction. What is deduction? What? Are you trying to say premises? Oh, reasoning. Yeah, I want something more specific than that. No, not where that's reduction, but not where logic is concerned. Yes.
The logical process finding up an argument in order to.
Yes. So it's this logical process of winding up premises, right, to make a conclusion. And you might have two premises, you really can't have one premise. You might have two, you might have three, you might have 12. But at the end, you have a logical conclusion that if those premises are true, it must be true. So the example they gave you in the book is all men are mortal. Spencer is a man. Therefore, Spencer is mortal. Now look, if 1 is true and 2 is true, then 3 has to be true. That's called a logical argument. All men are mortal. Spencer is a man. Therefore, Spencer is mortal. That is the process of deduction. You make these statements and you deduce from that statement a conclusion. So it's lining up premises in a logical argument and coming to a conclusion. Now, is it necessarily true then? Just because you come to a logical conclusion, is that logical? No, why not? Yeah, if 1 is or 2 or both are false, then the conclusion is false too. So look at the second one on page 63. All men are four-legged reptiles. Zachary is a man. Therefore, Zachary is a four-legged reptile. Either Zachary is a salamander, right, or something like that, or so either Zachary is a man is false, or all men are four-legged reptiles is false, and we know that to be false, right? But if it were true, then that third principle or that third statement, that conclusion would have to be true. So what do we call that process of figuring out if the premises are true? Inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning helps us figure out if those premises are true. So induction is drawing conclusions from repeated observation. In other words, it's the scientific method. It's what you're going to do in chemistry. I don't know if you've done experiments yet, but you will. And that's induction. So when we look at this logical argument, we go, oh, men are four-legged reptiles. In fact, no men are four-legged reptiles, right? That's wrong. That means, why? How do we know that? How do we know that men aren't four-legged reptiles? Through observation. Through observation. I've never seen a four-legged man, and I certainly haven't seen one that was a so that's induction. That's induction. Deduction is making the logical argument. Induction is figuring out if it's a true logical argument. It may be valid, but it may not be true. How is truth known? How is truth known? Oh. Okay, so truth is known through those first principles that we talked about. The first principles of logic, but it's also known by induction. It's known by deduction. But does knowing truth through logic and induction and deduction, does that remove all need for faith? Because we can't, there's some things we can't know 100%. So there's room for faith. Okay, we're going to stop there. We'll finish this tomorrow. You'll take your quiz, your Old Testament, your test, Old Testament, New Testament test tomorrow. Angela, have a good day.